Welcome to the very first edition of Icebreakers. So the purpose of these short videos is to draw attention to some news items that I've come across and contextualise them for anyone working in compliance, risk, investigations, etc. There's nothing like a real story or a case study to help us better understand how to manage threats. And these are all recent. Feel free to contact me directly to suggest any other stories or current issues that you think may be of interest in next month's edition. So here we go. So what am I going to be covering this month? I'm going to talk about a multi-million-pound internet fraud and money laundering case, a social engineering warning, and have you heard of Kish Island? I hadn't until today, but we're going to talk about that as well. The Tech Queen. Apparently this lady was on the LinkedIn platform advertising herself as such. She's recently been arrested by the FBI. She's called Sapphire Agamasi. She was arrested in New York for her role in a multi-million-dollar internet fraud, and the proceeds of which are being laundered through her friends and colleagues. But they were specifically targeting US government agencies. She has got a history in the UK previously as well. So she was connected with Guardian co-conspirators. What they were doing was creating spoof websites and then stealing login credentials and then rerouting stolen funds and quite significant amounts of money. So that happened between September 21 and February 23. And she was the tech expert for the group. And I'm sure there'll be more emerging with this story as we follow on. Now, she falsely claimed to have held several positions at major companies, and that was to conceal her source of wealth. And the other thing she was doing, quite interestingly, was she was flaunting herself on social media. They're in custody, well, she's in custody with her associates. They're facing up to 20 years in prison, fines and deportation. So what can we learn from this? The fact that she concealed her source of wealth by claiming to have held several positions, but also internships at BP, H&M and Zara are all well-known brands. But I'm forced to wonder what inquiries were made of those companies about her positions there, because I'm assuming they were false, and that would have come out from a employee screening inquiry potentially, or a due diligence inquiry. There were clues there. She was travelling frequently and posting pictures on social media, and this for me underlines the importance of using social media as a source when you're conducting due diligence. I know certain companies I've trained previously, they rail against that. They won't allow employees to do that, or their compliance team, but it's absolutely essential, because this is where people give things away, and it gives you access to that broader network. The fact they were creating fake websites of government agencies is a bit of a concern. Now, any of you that have had cyber security training from me will know that it's very, very important to interrogate the domain and check it, and we talk about that. So domain checks when you're looking at websites are absolutely vital if you are looking to interact with it in any way, and it's quite a simple process to do. And if you are looking at some of the shorter videos, the training videos, you will see at some point I will do that and show you how to check domains. Moving on. Social engineering warning. Okay, so this is an emerging threat. It's always been around, but it seems to be on the rise at the moment. There is talk that the M&S cyber attack has its origins in a social engineering attack, so it's extremely relevant. So social engineering, people, it's the human hack. So somebody will contact an individual in a company, pretend to be an employee, for example. I've lost my password, and they'll convince the IT support staff to do certain things. And this is what something similar appears to have happened here. So they're impersonating IT support staff in very convincing phone calls and getting employees to install malware. And once that malware is in, who knows what it will do, The group's name is there, UNC 6040. They targeted around 20 organisations in Europe and America. And the general sort of sectors, hospitality, retail and education, high risk. So they got the Salesforce data, they got multi-factor authentication codes through phishing, and then they returned some months later as well to try again. And that has parallels with what we knew in the police in the more traditional crime sense as repeat victimisation. So if you've been hit once, the likelihood is, unless you stop it and you patch those holes, they're going to come back. So this is, remember, it's not unusual, this attack. It's quite popular, it seems to be gaining a lot of popularity. And we're all vulnerable to being manipulated. So, what does it mean for us? Really important, I bang on about this a lot, but enhance your staff training. These incidents are escalating for sure. Things you can do in terms of internal processes: review and restrict or segment access to sensitive data. So there shouldn't be many employees with access to all the data in the company. So particularly where it's sensitive or it's financial, there should only be a small number of people in the company that have access to that. And remember, this is not a digital attack. This is not what people think of as a cyber attack, but in a way it is, because it's using cyber as the vehicle to extract the information, but it's an attack, it's a human hack. So awareness, raising, education, vital to protect you and your business. Then finally, for this one, Kish Island. So anyone that's subscribed to my normal newsletter may remember a couple of times I've referred to the Kinahan cartel. And I use that particular group because they're an organised crime group and they are of Irish origin, and they have been involved in all manner of criminality and commodities. They were in Dubai and they were tracked down to Dubai, so they've now moved to Kish Island, which is a free trade zone in Iran, apparently. What they benefit from there is relaxed banking regulations, limited policing, and apparently they've got the ability to convert cryptocurrency to cash. So extremely attractive for anybody who wants to launder criminal money. So before, they've exploited Dubai's financial system and the fact that there's not a very strong extradition treaty or law. And they've had many front companies all over the world, and I think in Gibraltar, for example, they had a company and it was involved in fake vodka, been involved in drug trafficking, violence, extortion, etc., etc. So because of the attention from law enforcement in Ireland, they've had to move out of Dubai and they've gone to Iran. And their operations are now under investigation. There's several sort of people wanted out of the group. So why do I draw attention to this one? I think it's a great example of organised crime and how they operate, and they're very similar in the way to a normal business, but obviously in the criminal sense. They will have their marketing, they will have the lieutenants, they'll have commodities, multi-commodities in their case. So if you're involved in due diligence, one of the things I would suggest is make sure you're scrutinising free zones, because they have the potential to be exploited by criminals. But also underlines that cryptocurrency continues to be of high risk. So make sure you're asking the right questions and inquiring, is the person or business involved in any way, shape or form with crypto? It might mean you continue to do business with them, but you really should be making sure you mitigate and manage the risks. And again, ongoing monitoring of jurisdictional risk is vital. This is where I see people going wrong all the time. They conduct the due diligence on where the person lives, maybe in terms of jurisdictional risk. They fail to take account of where that person is operating in the world, and that might be a very high risk jurisdiction. So I hope you found this video of interest, icebreakers, and helpful. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, I'm very open to that. I want to continue to improve this platform and get more people on it sharing information. So thank you for listening.